Hello, Namaskar, and welcome to Talking Point Blank. Now, today is 7th October, and on 7th October, I have again the same eminent guest who is basically based in Canada but has Jewish lineage and has been somebody who is a journalist and has been following this war very, very closely. Daniel Broadbent, welcome to the show again. Thank you for giving me time, and it's good to see you again, buddy.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's good to not have a flight to catch, so to give us some time to really get into it. So I appreciate you having me back.
Thank you. Now, Daniel, 2 years it's been, right? Where do you see the Gaza war going? One, where do you see Israel has made good headway? And why do you think Israel has still not been able to secure the release of the prisoners which Hamas, basically kidnapped from Israel on unfortunate 7th October?
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. I mean, the quick answer to the hostages thing is, well, because Hamas knows if they give up all the hostages, there's nothing holding the Israelis back from taking them out. So that's sort of their lifeline, is to hold on to hostages as long as they can, right? It's hostage diplomacy, which is very common for terrorist organizations to do. It's like the Islamic Republic of Iran. They conduct hostage diplomacy. They're sort of the financier of a lot of these things. So, they want to consistently bargain hostages. The odds that you'll ever see a deal that releases all the hostages is slim to none. You'll probably get most of them out and then do another rescue operation in some way. As we're recording this right before the 7th, my prediction of the 7th is, the Middle East is very much about timing and things. I'd expect both the Israelis and Hamas or Hezbollah, whoever, have some plans for the 7th to do something, because, that's how the Middle East is. It's symbols, it's timing, right? October 7th, it was a Jewish holiday, right? These things matter, right? It's the anniversary of the invasion of the Yom Kippur War, right? So there's a lot of symbology that goes into Middle East fighting. And that's very important to understand when it gets to the Middle East. So, there's really two main aspects of the war. There's the war on the ground, which the Israelis are kicking ass and taking names. And then there's the information war, which is not going great for the Israeli side. Right? I'm from Canada, where, in Toronto, every day or every couple times a week, jihadists and communists and whoever else just take over the streets and terrorize everyone and scream at people and threaten to kill Jewish people. And, I've seen jihadis, with thick Arabic accents screaming at like a 7-year-old Jewish girl, go back to Poland or we'll get you, while making a threatening in front of a cop who knows he can do nothing about it. So that's kind of the state of the West. And it's very destabilizing. So that's not going great for the global Jewish community, although there have been a lot of successes, and it's not as dire as people think it is. And there are some bright spots. But for the war, I think the lesson of this war that no one will learn, because we're all just going to scream about Jews and Muslims and not that, is like the element of surprise, taking initiative, full measures instead of half measures. When you are proactive and you take the initiative and you're bold, good things happen in wars, and the international community is a joke. Okay. The international community is a joke. No one cares about the UN, the EU, the Arab League, the Sikh League, the Hindu League, the Jewish, none of these things matter. Okay. I condemn you. You condemn me. I condemn your condemnation of me. I'm writing a letter to the United Nations because you whatever. Right. So none of that matters. And you saw, Hamas, have this surprise attack on October 7th, and people say like, oh, how could Israel allow this to happen? Isn't their intelligence so good? And to me, it's sort of a, amateur military historian, which we're all allowed to be on the internet these days. It kind of makes sense because you took the initiative, and it's sort of Israeli hubris. And like, how did they not know that Hamas was planning it? Well, everyone kind of knew, because if you listen to anything Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, or any Palestinian leader has said in the last 50 years, it's, we're going to break into Israel one day and kill them all. It's coming. We're gonna kill them all. We're gonna invade Israel and kill them all one day soon, right? The March of Return, the invasion of peace. The whole thing was trying to push the border fence and get Israel used to the border. And you saw there's a clip of Yahya Sinwar in the peaceful march where we tried a peaceful march. What they asked, what did the point? He's like, the purpose of the march, we're gonna go into Israel and tear their hearts out, and literally we're gonna. The point of this is to tear their hearts out. How could we have possibly known what Yahya Sinwar was thinking? He just wanted to kill you all, right? Didn't he? But the Jews saved his life and performed brain surgery on him in prison. And yeah, he's a terrorist. You helped him kill you, right? He doesn't think like you. So Yeah, that you go like, okay, listen, they had Iranian intelligence. They had a bunch of leftist Jews on the border who wanted to help the Gazans and drive them to cancer treatments and employ them. All of those employees, all the Gazans making a better life for the Israelis, they all were giving information and for years collecting intelligence. So, and the border fence with Israel is not the border fence that look at the Egyptians aren't this crazy. Look at the Egyptian border wall with Gaza compared to the Israeli border wall. The Israeli border wall is a fence. The Egyptians built a wall. That's why they couldn't bench a wall. So you just get one bulldozer. You go through, you have a breakthrough, you go through trucks, right? You can perform assaults in Toyotas, right? You saw that. And they knew how the Israelis react. They fire tons of rockets at the Israelis. What do the Israelis do? Okay, everyone, alarm goes off. Everyone go into the things. We just have to, for 24 to 36 hours, we have to just let the jihadists fire missiles at us. Then the Americans and the Biden administration will say, okay, you're allowed to fire back for a bit. Fine. You can fire a little bit of rockets back at Hamas. But they knew where all the Israelis were going to be because they knew the bomb shelters. And they knew the Israeli response was, okay, go to ground, wait it out, let the Iron Dome take care of it. But they did a combined arms assault. That's the lesson of Canada at Vimy Ridge in World War I. Mixing artillery to cover the infantry to perform an assault, right? It's not, with the element of surprise. It's not the craziest military tactic. It's sort of very old school. The OG combined arms warfare, they kind of applied it to a modern setting. And because they took the initiative and did it in mass, right? They were able to kill 1,200 innocent people. They were able to take 250 hostages. And it was the greatest day of their entire lives. It's a Palestinian holiday, October 7th. So that's the great battle of the narrative wars. Is October 7th? Is it a warning to never do that again? Or it will be a Palestinian holiday? That's sort of the grand war that will determine if there's going to be a second October 7th. All right. So you have, that's how Hamas got the initiative. And then when the Israelis got their stuff together and went into Gaza, they're just destroying Hamas's infrastructure and they've redefined tunnel warfare and all this stuff. And listen, no one cares about the truth. The level of civilian casualties is the best ratio in all of human history. Urban warfare is usually a 9-to-1 civilian to combatant death ratio. Here it's about 1.1 to 2.5. And that's better for most actual wars where it's 1 to 3 in open warfare. So the level of civilian deaths where also no country is taking refuge. It's not like the Egyptians are taking Gazan refugees. So you have the conditions set up for the highest civilian casualty ratio, because that's Hamas's plan, is to kill as many Palestinians as possible. They'll tell you all of this, but the West doesn't care. People don't care about truth. It's a sort of an emotional thing. All right. So that's the Gaza quagmire, which everyone's sort of focused on. And another reason why Gaza was able to get the element of surprise is because if you talk to any Israeli 2.5 years ago and you talk to a general, what's the big threat? Hezbollah in the north. Hezbollah in Lebanon has all these rockets, the Shia croissant, right? Iraq had fallen, become an Iranian proxy state. Assad Syria was a proxy state of the Islamic Republic. Hezbollah pretty much controlled Lebanon. They had 100,000 high grade rockets, much better stuff than Hamas. So the Israelis, the existential threat was at the north, which is why they spent so many years planning a pager operation in the north. So you had Hamas attacked on the 7th. Hezbollah then starts firing rockets. Hamas thought Hezbollah would join them. They didn't really go full invasion, but the Israelis were able to sort of get their defenses up and take away the elements of surprise. They weren't going to be caught flat-footed, right? And then they fought with Gaza and Hamas for about a year while firing back and forth with Hezbollah and a rocket exchange. But then you saw the Israelis took the initiative. Boom, pagers blow up. Because they thought, we can't, the Jews tap your phone, so let's go pagers. Did the Israelis incept that idea in them and then sold them the pagers, then blew up their pagers, and then the next day blew up their walkie-talkies? Oh no, we don't have pagers, we don't have walkie-talkies, we can't use cell phones, we have to meet in person to discuss battle plans. Well, we know where you're meeting. All your leadership is boom, right? And then they found Nasrallah. Boom, he's done. Then they replaced Nasrallah. Then boom, he's done. Then they replaced that guy. Then boom, he's done. And Hezbollah kaput, right? And then when Hezbollah fell, Hezbollah was the main army that propped up Assad, right? This gave rise to, and Jelani saw his opportunity, probably backed by Turkey, who's Erdogan's a smart player. And then within a couple weeks, Syria's gone. And Israel took the time, and I think quite intelligently, take the high ground, okay? Oh, this and that, wars. No one in the West knows anything. There are no rules of war, whatever. Israel took Mount Hemron, right? If you look at the geostrategic, Israel's problem is strategic depth, right? Why will they never allow a state in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria? It's the high ground. If you give them a state in West Bank, And from gunfire and rockets, they can shut down all of Israel all the time. If you withdrew from the West Bank, there'd be a full scale like war, and you'd have to actually then kick all the Arabs out of the West Bank and fully so the best case scenario for the Arabs in the West Bank during Samaria is the status quo, as you can say, because they get a state, it's going to be total warfare and they're all going to die. So you have Israel that has the complete high ground. Syria's now fallen. The Shia croissant is broken. They have the high ground in the region. Hezbollah's destroyed. So the greatest existential threat militarily to Israel right on their border, the Ring of Fire, was broken. And then for 12 days, they're just flying over Iran, doing whatever they wanted, right? Right? Like my friends and Iranian friends and I, we would have a conversation like before the 12-day war. You'd say, what's the most powerful military faction inside Iran? Is it the IRGC or is it the army? And it's really the IRGC, if anyone knows anything, even though the army has bigger numbers, but the IRGC is the most powerful thing. Well, turns out the Israeli Mossad was the most powerful land military inside Iran. Iran doesn't, it has two armies in Iran and neither of them are the most powerful army inside Iran. It's the Israeli Mossad operatives who are more powerful. They built a drone factory inside Iran, inside Tehran, and then used that to blow up all their air defenses and got complete air superiority over a military power that America was even afraid of. Russia was afraid of, part of the great thing. And they destroyed the Islamic Republic for 12 days, just everything they wanted to hit. They pulled off they got all their leadership into a room. Everyone who could have given the command to fire back, they got them into one room, tricked them into one room, blew it up to start the war, took out all their major nuclear scientists, and then, the Americans had to come in and take out Fordo. I was kind of hoping if they could, it's kind of like my Sindoor thing. You needed 36 more hours in Sindoor. If the Israelis could say, instead of a 12-day war, how about a 2-week war? You should call it the 2-week war. Give them an extra 48 hours to take out more missiles and whatever. Cause like Iranian missile and ballistic missile capabilities were dwindling, by the day. And like they bottlenecked and they got a lot of launchers. Now you can argue maybe not taking out all the ballistic missiles might be better for the Israelis strategically in terms of peace, because if the Iranian ballistic missile threat is still a threat to Saudi Arabia, then Saudi Arabia is more likely to cooperate with Israel because of the threat of Iran. And if you completely neuter the Iranians, what's the incentive for the Saudis to come to Israel for protection? That you don't know. But what you've definitely learned is Israel is the most dominant military power in the Middle East. Period, bar none. Even if the Arabs try another 6-day war, Yom Kippur war, try round 4 of the United Arab Armies to take out Israel, round 4 is going to go exactly the same way round 1, 2, and 3 went. The Israelis are expecting it. You're not going to catch them off guard anytime soon. And if you try it, they have a bunch of tricks out of your sleeve. And, what we kind of thought we might have learned in Russia, Ukraine, like, oh, it's now drone warfare. It's a new thing. Actually, air superiority is still the same. And drones can integrate in, but if you still have top level F-35s, right? If your airplanes can jam their capabilities and have stealth and have, weapon system, like the Israeli Adir, the F-35, the Israeli version of it with the modified one, might be the best plane on the planet.
Yeah, they bettered it.
They tinkered it. And the Americans have a 6th generation fighter coming out, and that might, probably the new top one when it's on the ready. But right, if the Israelis have the number 1 air force in the world, I still think America's clearly the number 1 army in the world. Clearly, the Americans the number 1 army. When you talk about who's the second most powerful military in the world, again, 5 years ago, you say, well, Russia or China. It's not Russia. The Israelis are clearly more powerful than the Russians, right? The Russians couldn't, everyone thought 3-day special military operation Ukraine, how's that one going? The Russian military equipment is junk. You can argue their 5th generation fighters are worse than their 4th generation fighters. It's all crap. All their best scientists left the fall of the Soviet Union. They're all in the States. They're all in Europe or elsewhere. Is Israel going to go to war with China? No, but could China invade Israel and get other people? That's going to be probably not. No. And they're probably they wouldn't try it because they know they get burned.
So they have Pakistan and Iran. Why do they need to do that? Because it's all about proxies.
Exactly. And they have Pakistan, they have Iran. They'll try, but Pakistan's not going to mess with Israel because the
Pakistanis messed with the Americans. Pakistan, is one of the most unpredictable nations on the earth.
Yeah.
And, it actually suits Pakistanis in today's their own political games to actually mess a little bit with Israelis.
Yeah, I mean, like they'll yell at the Israelis, but I don't think they'll ever fully mess with the Israelis because they're tied into the Americans, and then if they want American military equipment, they're not going to mess with the Israelis. So Pakistan's sort of an India problem. Well, they're a global problem because the IS, like the Pakistani bot farms, the ISI, they're not your friends. I don't need to tell India that Pakistan shouldn't be trusted. Don't trust the Pakistanis. Don't fund Pakistan.
No, I think it's the world which shouldn't be trusting Pakistani. The Indians are pretty much clear.
Yeah, India's the only country I don't need to convince.
Yeah.
I don't need to spend time with Indians. Being like, guys, don't trust Pakistan. Don't give your money to Pakistan. Everyone's like, yeah, we don't. But everyone else, if you're listening outside of India, guys, stop giving your money to Pakistan. It's not going to go well for you. So militarily, like Israel's situation in the north, which was a danger, greatest success of all time, like immaculate, destroyed Hezbollah. Oh, you can't destroy a terrorist organization. If you kill one, two will take his place. No, if you kill someone, they're dead. And if someone takes their place, well, they're not a hardened terrorist with 10 years of military training. They're a kid with a gun. And there's a big difference in a kid with a gun, an African Civil War showed you pull a trigger, you can still kill someone. But who would you rather, right? Who do you think would win in a fight? 10, drugged up 12-year-olds with AK-47s or one U.S. Marine if you put them in like...
No, that's true. Yeah.
Right? It all
boils down to...
It's still like, I'd still take a team of Marines or U.S. Special Forces or Golani or the Golani Brigade or
any professional army will always do better.
Yeah, professional army or special. There's a reason why Special Forces are even better than that. And there's a reason why, Special Forces are special, right? Yeah. So you have that. So the Israelis have had this amazing success in the north, like really amazing. And the Islamic Republic of Iran is sort of set to collapse. They have this hollow victory of like, oh, yeah, Khamenei's still alive, but Khamenei's been humiliated and neutered. The 12-day war, Israel-Iran war, if you ask the Israeli generals to game plan best case scenario and worst case scenario, what happened in the 12-day war is better than everyone's best case scenario. More Iranian generals died than there were Israeli casualties in a full-scale war between the two countries.
True. How
insane is that? And Iran's not Somalia where you go, okay, this and that, and or the Houthis. And the Houthis are another thing. They're still firing a rocket here and there, but they're probably the only terrorist organization that really sort of climbed in their power rankings since then because they got all the world attention because they would sink oil tankers from Greece and cause oil spills. Everyone, Greta Thunberg would be like, yay, keep doing it, Houthis. Sink that Greek oil ship owned by a Vietnamese guy on its way to Sri Lanka to show the Jews. And the environmentalists were like, yay, terrorists blowing up oil tankers. That's what we love, right? Because the issue isn't the issue. The revolution is the issue to these people. But then the Houthis, all their leadership got boomed, right? The Israelis got them all in one room and then blew that up. And so they're not doing too great. And again, the Israelis kind of showed that, yeah, you can complain about them, but when it gets to brass tacks and when countries need it, so Greece, who has to deal with the rising Turkey and the expansionist Turkey, they know that when it comes down to it, they want Israeli military tech. They understand they have a thing. They're not going to want to mess with the Israelis. They're going to want to trade. There's a reason why Greek trade.
The way Erdogan is going, I'm sort of stopping you here. The way Erdogan is going in the region, and we have already seen some power show between the Turkish and the Israelis. And this happened last year as well, over the airfields, which the Russians were vacating and the Turkish wanted to take that. Even the port, Turkey wants to take over the Russians, which the Russians want to leave. I see an imminent clash between Turkey and I see an imminent clash between Israel because they're basically clashing in Syria, especially if you see what happened with Druze.
Yep.
That short, you can say a short push of Islamists to literally obliterate them in that region or to subdue them completely. It was a show of power and a message to Israel. Israel responded, and then there was a sort of...
they blew up the Syrian parliament, and they said, no, you don't get to genocide the Druze. They're our homies, right? Yeah. Because the Druze are very integrated into Israeli society, and the Israelis and the Jews have so little friends these days that, and it's sort of a nephew to the entire world, where the Jewish mentality is like they let the Holocaust happen and they'll let the Holocaust happen again. It's up to us. No one will come and save us. But, all the demonizing the Israelis get of, oh, you're genocidal, you're evil. Sort of the Jewish mindset is we'll show that, like, when it comes, if you're going to genocide a minority even smaller than the Jews, there's 15 million Jews in the world. If you're going to try and genocide a teeny tiny more with just 100,000 less than a million, no, not in our backyard. We won't let that happen because we are better than you. Like, that's kind of the Israeli mindset now. The Israelis are much bolder in the region. They've kind of, right, because all the shackles are off and all the sort of the fake deterrence, right? There's real deterrence, there's hard deterrence, and there's fake deterrence, and the Israelis won't be deterred by something that isn't real anymore. And there's always a bit of that and the social pressure and balancing that. But this is where you get to the Europeans trying to recognize Palestine, and I think it's absurd. It will prolong the war. It will embolden terrorist groups in Judea and Samaria to do something. It will embolden Hamas to go even further. So with what the Europeans and Canadians and Australians pulled in the last couple of weeks, that definitely scuttled any chance of a peaceful equilibrium.
Yeah, so that's where I wanted to come next. Do you think that it's basically to make sure that the Abraham Accords, which the Israelis and the rest of the Arab world, including Saudi Arabia majorly, were looking at as a way of peace for the future in Middle East, do you think it's actually to dismantle the Abraham Accords and to basically nullify it?
That's probably
continue the conflict?
I think that's probably where Qatar and Turkey and Hamas are thinking. I think the Europeans are much more short-sighted. I don't think grand strategy is a European. They're like, listen, European colonialists in colonial days, 18th, 19th, 17th century, there's some grand strategy, they're playing, they have to learn to administer, long games. How do you train a civilization to take over? But, modern Europeans, I don't think they can think further than a few months. I think a lot of it is appeasement to their own pace. I think you have some radicals, like the Spanish guy's a communist, and he also has his own corruption dealings. So if you want to attack the Jews, you're going to get a very rabid fan base of hard leftists, hard neo-Nazi rightists, and Islamists, right? They'll come and back you. You want to, so they'll become a bit of a fan base. The problem is Europeans don't understand Islamists at all. They don't understand, and that by recognizing a Palestinian state, you're going to increase the attacks on you. You're going to increase the protests. You're going to increase the violence because you taught them that violence and rioting works. And they don't want a two-state solution. They want Israel obliterated. And in Hamas's charter, in the Hamas's founding charter is retaking the Iberic Peninsula because it used to be part of Islam, right? And to the jihadist mindset, right? Yes, world domination, but anything that used to be Islamic land is always Islamic land. And that's where you might start first. So if Hamas were to get their way and Israel was gone, right? Kashmir needs to be taken. All of India used to be ruled by the Mughal Empire. So that counts as Islamic land. India needs to be taken.
Which we call Gazawar in India.
Yeah, goes in, right? And then you need to retake Spain and Portugal, right? Then you can go to France, and you can go to England, then you go to Denmark, and then you can go there. But it hurts their ego, and it's a religious commandment to retake Spain and Portugal because it was once ruled by Islam. It will be ruled by Islam again. And of course, there's expansion in Nigeria, and who cares about the Nigerian Christians, right? So you have all of this, and you have very, very stupid and short-sighted Europeans. But again, the UN's always been an anti-Israel body, but what power does the UN have?
Yeah, which is a question I want to come next. What do you think has become of UN? Because, recently we saw Shahbaz Sharif coming and, making those outlandish claims, standing at the podium. How has UN become so toothless that you can come and propagate any lie you want to in front of the world and you walk away literally scot-free?
Well, I mean, the UN's been broken for decades now, right? It's failed at literally everything. I mean, there was the glory days of the United Nations, probably like 1955, the Suez Canal crisis. Lester B. Pearson, the Canadian, negotiated that. Like a UN peacekeeping force might have actually, because they went in Suez Canal, the Egyptians got what they wanted, the Israelis got what they wanted, the French and the English.
Or even till Kosovo, I would say, when they went in Kosovo,
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So there's
bits and pieces.
Okay, bits and pieces. But I'm saying, that's, the glory days, you're right. Peak United Nations, 1950. But the problem is, you can't put not all nations are equal. Okay.
That's true.
And I don't give a shit what North Korea has to say about anything, but the United Nations does. Why is North Korea, Somalia, Eritrea on a human rights commission or whatever? I don't care. If North Korea votes for something, it counts as an opposite vote, right? So if North Korea votes no, I count that as a yes. If they vote yes, I count it as a no.
No.
And that if I was Prime Minister of Canada, that would be my policy. I'd have a list of countries, and I'd say, North Korea, China, Eritrea, Somalia, Qatar. These are the countries I don't respect. Every vote at the United Nations, I am counting them as an opposite vote, right? So if they vote yes, I count it as a no. If they vote no, I count it as a yes. Because you can't, right? And and listen, at the United Security Council, if Russia and America have a veto power on, nothing's going to get done. France, England, Russia, again. So then you have all these bodies, and they're open to corruption. They're global bureaucrats. You don't think the Russians, the Chinese, the Qataris, anyone with money, right? That's the problem with democratic nations, is you're accountable to your people. So you can't just take, your money, his money, all the money of the people part of this podcast. Oh, you want to pay taxes? You want roads? No, sorry. This is going to a UN bureaucrat to say, we need to put Modi in jail, or Netanyahu in jail, or, we need more weapons to fire at Yazidis or something. Right. But the CCP, and the coalition of dictatorships can buy up the UN. You saw that with the World Health Organization on COVID response.
Even UNWRA.
Yeah, UNWRA. Yeah, you see, right? All all the things, right? The COVID response. Oh, there's no virus in China. China's doing great. And then, the virus spreads to other countries. Other countries need to lock down. China's doing great, right? Theresa Tam, our Dr. Fauci in Canada, he was a friggin' Chinese spy. She was on the payroll of a World Health Organization who signed a thing loyal to the World Health Organization, not to Canada, and that was all funded by China. Come on, and she's in charge of the health response, and it's a joke, right? So at some point we need some semblance of international institutions, right? You want some global. I'm not an anti-vaxxer, right? I had skepticisms of a COVID vaccine. I wish that the rollout I liked what India kind of did when they're like, okay, everyone's vaccinated, problem solved, you can go on with your day now. And that was, I thought that was the thing. And that's kind of what we expected to happen in Canada. It's like, okay, we're double vaccinated. Can we go home now? No, some people still aren't vaccinated. You need a booster, and lock down even harder. Yeah. And that's when everyone went, what? And that's sort of what started the Freedom Convoy movement came from there. And you saw the West. But, you need some sort of viable, trustable, because it's good if you have some streamlined, medical practices and organizations that if there's an outbreak of a disease, you can get, a mobile medical force to Cambodia to help quell a disease outbreak with trained doctors. There is, and that benefits everyone. I wouldn't mind some Canadian taxpayers going to a elite team of international disease fighting, doctors who did that. But it's all politics. It's all corrupt. It's all weaponized by China, Qatar, Iran, Russia, whoever's paying for it, right? And America is paying for it, but not bribing. America pays the bill, but China bribes the people.
True.
So it's funded by America, but the individuals are funded by China. So they work on behalf of China.
So it's more not about what the bills are, but it's more about what the personal bribes are going to be.
Yeah.
Which takes me to another question. That is, both Israel and India are probably two of the countries in the world which have been, facing terrorism for decades now. Both have been fighting terrorism for decades.
You could argue for centuries, but
okay. But I'm talking about recent,
modern India, modern Israel. Since 1947, 48.
Yet both of them fail on the narrative basis.
Yeah.
Right. Mostly. Because if you look at the genocide in Gaza, the way it's trending, the way people are talking about it, the way Western government has weaponized it against US and against Israel. Same you see with India, the way India, dealt with Pakistan after the Pahalgam terror attack. But when it comes on the global narrative shape, it's the Pakistanis which are always, which are always coming up. I would, very openly say, they come up on narratives more than the Indian. Why is it that both India and Israel, being the biggest victim of terrorism, are still not recognized, and these narrative gameplays are the ones which actually,
it's a complex factor. So you could talk about the faults of India and Israel, then you can talk about the failings of the people outside, the moral failings of society. So let's focus on India and Israel. For different reasons, the countries of India and Israel don't do propaganda differently. Now, the Israelis are different. So the Israelis, the global Jewish community, the diaspora, it's about half the Jews are in Israel, half of them are outside of Israel. The ones doing like the narrative fighting are outside of Israel. The ones doing the war fighting are inside Israel. And they support each other. But the Israelis and the diaspora Jews have a very different mentality, right? Because the diaspora Jews are out there in America, in the West, doing well, my parents are doctors and this, I'm going to school, life is good in the West, things are getting better, the world is getting a better place. The Israelis are under fire. But the Israelis have a very different, diaspora Jews are much more sensitive to anti-Semitism and will always try and explain themselves. And the Israelis have said no. So there's a saying Jewish community that I think this would be good for the Indians to learn. An anti-Semite does not accuse a Jew of theft because he thinks he is stealing. He accuses a Jew of stealing because he enjoys watching him turn his pockets out. Okay, the enjoyment is making. But I didn't. What is it? That they enjoy that, right? So the Israelis don't play that game. Fuck you. I don't need this. I don't explain myself. I do. Yeah. Right? So the Israeli mentality is, yeah. They don't even have who's the propaganda guy for Israel? Who's the spokesperson? They don't even have a spokesperson. We don't need this. Meh. Bibi comes on and makes a speech every couple months and does some things there, and that's all it is. Why doesn't Israel have a guy that can go on TV or this or an explaining corps?
You have very few. Or somebody like Gazawar who comes and...
But all of that...
That's all individual efforts.
Is individuals in the diaspora, right? It's people like me, right? People, are Tough Sikh and there's organizations, there's different things. And it's grassroots. It's
organic.
It's organic. It's the Jews in the diaspora who have to do it ourselves. And a lot of us see that's our part in the war. Like if I can't be in Gaza or Lebanon, helping my people, I'll go on this podcast and I'll try and, explain and do that. And there's a massive, well-funded anti-Israel campaign that is, started by the Soviets, right? If you don't know, the Soviet Union invented the Palestinian people in 1964. It's funny, if you look at the original charter of the PLO 1964, they openly acknowledge that Gaza and the West Bank are not Palestinian territory.
No, they were never, they never talked about Palestine till it was under occupation of Egypt and Jordan.
Well, no, they didn't want a Palestinian state until Israel took it back from Egypt. Right? So then that's a great Israel argument. It's like, well, Gaza used to be part of Egypt. The West Bank, as you call it. Why is it called the West Bank? What part of Palestine is the West Bank on if it's all Palestine? True. Look at a map. Eastern. Why is it called the West Bank? Because it's west of the Jordan River. From the river, the Jordan River to the sea, the Mediterranean Sea. Palestine will be free, right? That's the whole thing, right? So the very name betrays the thing. But none of this is about truth. No one cares about the truth. It's about a feeling, right? About being part of a mob, being part of a crowd. And I think a lot of the mob in the West is we are searching for meaning. We've told ourselves that, post-colonialism, we're racist, we're terrible, we're evil, our cultural, throw your culture in the garbage because it's, having a culture is whatever, but we're multicultural, right? All the stuff. So we've been so devoid of meaning that you have this mob coming up and free Palestine, just this backed by Qataris. We got this hardcore, right? Islamist, Muslim Brotherhood who are just out there. And, that's powerful. That's like, this is what Jews don't understand. Like the anti-Israel mob is young men energy. It's young male energy. Free. Right? It's fun to be there. And the Jewish counter is old woman energy. Come sit down, listen to my lecture, come to the podcast, we'll take a thing, don't do that. Okay, let me explain. Hello, welcome to Why You Shouldn't Kill Me 101. Right? And there's a reason why single mothers create violent old lady energy by itself cannot contain young male energy. You can do other things. I'm not saying women you need aunts and uncles and mothers and do great. But when you're dealing with a rowdy young man, you either need to match that with young male energy or old man energy, like a firm, right? You need to, so Jews haven't learned the intricacies of that, but at least they're trying, right? At least the Jewish diaspora is trying. There's a few million of us, and there's a bunch of lefties and we're fighting each other, but God bless us, we're trying. Some of us better than others, but we're trying. India, no one's even trying. And then no one's, Indians in the Hindu diaspora, they can come up with 1,000 excuses to do nothing, right? Either I'm too scared, or I'm not scared. Like,
I'm too busy with my life.
I'm too busy with life, or like, I've seen supposed multi-millionaire Indians get attacked by Khalistanis and targeted, and clearly, I'm like, he's lying about you. You have a slam dunk defamation case. Just sue them.
Mm-hmm.
Sue them. Aren't you like a super rich guy? These people, they're below me. No, they're not. You're just scared, and you're making an excuse to do nothing, right? So a lot of excuses to do nothing. I think a lot of Indians are the jailers of their own prison cell mentally, right? Like the door's open, like it's not locked. You're holding the keys. Just go. And this thought of like there's a conspiracy against us, the CIA. Have you seen the CIA, the Trump administration, they tariffed an island of penguins? You think the CIA was the penguins are up to something? They're penguins. You think there's a master plan against India? No one has a plan against India, right? But India thinks there's a plan against India, and that's an excuse to be like, what's the CIA doing? We have to do this and this, that. They're nothing. They're doing nothing.
You don't have to fight the CIA.
You don't have to fight the CIA.
You have to fight the ISI.
You have to fight the ISI. Pakistan. You telling me you can't beat Pakistan in an argument?
Yeah. Pakistan.
It's not Mensa. It's not like, the Intergalactic Federation of Super Scholars. It's Pakistan. Have you ever listened to Pakistan? You're telling me, but Pakistan at least tries. That's why they win the propaganda war. So this is how I see Operation Sindoor. Okay, Pakistan did the terrorist attack at Pahalgam. Yay, we killed people. Good for them, right? Mission accomplished. They felt good. They murdered innocent people because they were Hindu. Good job, team. And then India and Operation Sindoor, you dominated them militarily. It wasn't perfect. Okay, there's some losses, but they killed someone, so they went bananas, right? So what really happened? Well, India punched Pakistan really hard in the face. They have a massive black eye and a concussion. And then they stumbled back to their people and went,
I'm the victim.
You should see the other guy. And they all went, yeah! Now, one, they are highly concussed, but the problem with Pakistan is concussion testing, you need a baseline. So what's the baseline of concussion testing there? And they have a black eye, right? You can still walk with a black eye and you look kind of cool, right? And Pakistan's not going to, are the intellectuals in Islamabad going to go and do a tour of India to survey the damage and talk to the Indian people to get to the truth, to write a report? No! Yeah! That was the greatest, that's the intellectual thing. Like the graph and the intellectual, woo! Give them credit. They just declared victory and wee! Right? So this is why I said you needed 36 more hours because you gained air superiority by destroying their air bases, blowing up some pilots, right? You had them. You didn't demonstrate air superiority. So to the Western world, it looked like a tie. And Donald Trump got to say, peace! And then everyone stopped. That was his wet dream. He gave it to him. And listen, and then Pakistan figured out the narrative, appease Trump. And Pakistan, you could have, listen, if I was in Modi's office, I would have if I had to grab the mic. So what did Pakistan do? They said, thank you, Donald Trump. You deserve a Nobel Peace Prize for stopping us fighting. Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel Peace Prize. They just kissed his ass. Just straight ass kissing. Yeah. Simple, to the point, straight up ass kissing. And I said to some Indian friends, just give me the microphone. Give me the MEA, put me on ANI, throw all the bureaucrats in jail for one day. Give me the microphone. I'll pretend to be Indian. And I would have come out and said, I want to thank President Trump for his hard stance on terror. When we first planned Operation Sindoor and all this stuff, we thought what we'd be able to accomplish in Operation Sindoor would take at least 4 months. And if Joe Biden or Barack Obama was president, it might have even taken 4 years. But because Donald Trump is president and Donald Trump understands the importance of being tough on terror, we are able to fully accomplish all our goals in 4 days and bring peace and stability through strength, because Donald Trump understands that terrorism must be fought and only peace through strength. So we thank Donald Trump for understanding that India must be strong, India must be victorious, and terrorists must fall, because this is something we share, and we hope that generations in the future can understand the importance of being strong on terror. Is Donald Trump going to say no to that?
I don't think so.
No. Set your narrative in a way that Trump goes, yes, I did that. Why did Donald Trump come in? You think listen, he came in the 11th hour in the 12-day war because he wanted part of it, because the Israelis looked friggin' cool.
Yeah.
If the Israelis had failed, Bibi didn't do it without my thing. I didn't know this, that. But because they were the coolest people on the planet for 12 days.
And that's what the Israelis did with Donald Trump. They just gave him, boasted him by saying that, because of him.
We did it. Teamwork, right? Teamwork. Teamwork. USA, right? You could play the Team America, kind of learn to say that. That's what they gave him. And then he's like, yeah, I am the coolest guy. Hand in glove. We helped plan it. Donald Trump, Benjamin Netanyahu, 12-day war, the most effective war there ever was. We did great. Spin a narrative in which Donald Trump looks like the good guy that coincides with your narrative. I came up with that in 5 minutes while watching Pakistan kick their ass. You telling me how many bureaucrats, how many people in the MEA, how many people in the propaganda department, they couldn't find a narrative to give Donald Trump? You just complained about Pakistan. Oh, you made fun of Donald Trump. Oh, Nobel Peace Prize. Oh, Nobel Peace Prize. And yeah, Trump jumped the gun and should have, allowed India to do, but you should know it's coming down. India should have been more dynamic. Set the narrative. India is always reactive on the narrative, never proactive.
Yeah.
Be proactive. That's the lesson of the Middle East. Hamas is proactive, got a major propaganda victory, and managed to kill lots of people, take lots of hostages.
Mm-hmm.
But the Israelis were proactive on Hezbollah, proactive in Syria, proactive on Iran, right? Massive victories. So that's what they've learned. And I think that should be the lesson for India is you got to take the initiative. You got to be on the front foot. You got to be out there, set your narrative. Like, you can beat Pakistan in an argument. I have faith in you.
Easily.
Okay? But you don't try, right? It's like my analogy of India's propaganda game is like you have a cricket match against Pakistan, and you have the Indian All-Stars, all your greatest people revived from the dead in the prime of their careers against a JV Pakistan team. And that's what you got. But you're too good to bat. So you let them bat and you bowl and whatever, and we got 10 wickets and they only scored 11 runs. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. But they won the game 11-0 because you were too good to bat. So they won. Yeah. All right, so let's say you got even 0 wickets. India says, no, there's 0 wickets. They scored 0 wickets on us. You bowled a perfect game. 10 balls, 10 outs, perfect game for your bowlers. Well, you still didn't bat. Okay, tie game. And it was a tie. You still tied. Someone has to take the bat and swing it. If you want to win a cricket game, at some point, you have to swing the bat.
Of course. Without swinging the bat, you don't win.
Do I have to be, Virat Kohli to figure this thing out? No. I watched one cricket game. India won that cricket game because I watched. And I've figured out that if you want to win, you have to at least try. You have to swing a bat. So India's biggest problem in the narrative war is it will not swing the bat for a myriad of different reasons. And I think, like, again, I see India as their own jailer. The doors are unlocked. India's in a prison and it's there and it's complaining. And why can't this happen? Why can't? And I'm like, because you just don't want to walk out the door. Just walk out the door. The world's nice outside. You can do it. You can beat Pakistan in an argument, learn some successes. I mean, there's only a few million Jews doing this and we're doing it. So, but at least we're trying. We're fighting off 2 billion people, right? And they get billions of dollars of funding and a whole host of Muslim Brotherhood and the Khalistanis are in on it and all these different organizations and the communists and the Russians and the Chinese and the Pakistan, every bought army, Qatar. But at least we're trying to hold down the fort, right? Someone's in the Alamo firing a gun still. So we haven't been totally overrun. We managed to have successes here and there. And we still hold sway, at least in the American right, there. So, and I think that's why you at least have some successes for the Israelis for holding off this entire propaganda narrative and, understanding the levels of hate and why people hate you. That's probably a talk for a different day, because that's another thing of like, then there's the other element of like, right? Who hates you? Why do they hate you? What are they doing? That needs to be broken down into action stages. So, but yeah, in terms of like Middle Eastern wars, I think both narrative war and ground war, momentum is important. initiative, momentum, proactivity, creativity. Like all these things still matter. And, you know, if you're passive and always analyzing and reactive, right? If you have the greatest military analysts and strategists, you know, you can strategize all you want inside an air-conditioned room in Delhi. But until, you know, wars are won by soldiers.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
With that, thank you, Daniel. Thank you so much for taking out the time and doing this podcast. I hope to see you once again next time on some different topic as well. Thank you. And if you really like this podcast, please share it with your friends and family. Ask them to subscribe to the channel, grow it. And you can also contribute by becoming members. You can also contribute by, using super thanks and super chats. And if you have comments for me or Daniel, you can always, tag us on Twitter. Daniel is Daniel Broadman01, if I'm correct.
OG.
Yeah, sorry. Daniel Broadman OG, and mine is Raja Munib. You can tag us on Twitter, or you can leave your comments in the comment section below and we'll try to answer your questions. I hope you enjoy it. Till next time, Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.